Hey everybody, it is John the Comic Guy, and on his way over right now is my friend Rich from Pennsylvania. Rich and his wife go to Ocean City a couple of times a year, and he always, when they're here, like to stop by and look in the garage for some comics. But he texted me and said, John, I'm bringing some goodies. So I'm really excited to see what goodies he's bringing over. So if you stay tuned, let's check out what Rich is bringing over. I am here with my brother Rich, and he came bringing some goodies for me to look at. So we might do some trading, but he, as always, he typically will bring something for me. And check out what he brought me. These are replica covers, but I think it's so cool.
Yes, I do.
He,
I do.
he brought this again. He gives me these things, and I love it because I think it's going to be hard ever finding this book.
Definitely.
But if you find it and it's coverless,
You're set.
this is the way to do it. So.
Yep, it'll present a lot better.
So, Rich, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for giving me this.
Yep, you're welcome.
I'm gonna do a flip through with the stuff that he brought, because I'll show you what at least I'm looking at, and then if we do any trades, I'll show you what I end up keeping. I'll tell you, Rich is such a great guy. So, Rich, thank you so much for coming over and doing the trade. And as you could see, the trading isn't always like for like. So, in this particular case, Rich brought over records to trade with me, which I'm more than happy with. And Rich comes over every 2 months, right? He comes from Pennsylvania. Him and his wife hang out in Ocean City. He'll stop by. He's such a great guy. He always has great conversation. Sometimes he'll bring gifts for me. In this particular case, he brought me this Tough Kid Squad facsimile cover. I have never heard of this title. It's a timely title, but I always like storing my facsimile covers because you never know. When you're a dealer, you might end up picking up a coverless book, and it's so good to have a facsimile cover for it. So, and I love it. That's what I love displaying, right? I'll have it sitting at my desk and I'm able to look at it. So, anyway, Rich, thank you so much. And in addition to that, of course, he brought records to trade. So check out the 4 comics that Rich got from me. He bought 2 books from the Providence collection, that Pedigree collection, and he also bought some other books. And we traded. He gave me a little bit of cash, and he gave me these records. So let me share with you the records that I'm going to keep. Some of these records that he brought, I put right into inventory, right? Because it was like polka. Again, it's stuff that I don't particularly listen to or collect. But these I am keeping, at least for now. Monk's greatest hit. If you don't know Monk is a jazz musician. So I don't actually know if this type of jazz is something that I'm going to enjoy, but Chris and I are certainly going to give it a listen to, and I'm always looking to diversify my listening. If it's stuff that we like, I just added another artist into our collection. As you probably saw in the flip through, there were a lot of Neil Young in this collection. Some I had, some I didn't. These are the ones that I actually did not have. So this spans from 1967 to 1987. You're right, Neil Young is prolific. This was a 1967 album, Neil Young. Keeping this one, this is Reactor, Neil Young, Crazy Horse, Reactor. I actually thought I had Reactor at one time, but you know, I get these senior moments. I sell stuff off, and I realize I didn't have it. But what I'm glad about is I didn't have a copy in this beautiful condition. Right, it still has a shrink. It's just beautiful. I have a Neil Young, Everybody's Rockin', and this is still in shrink. Right, these records are all in great condition. I would have to say, if they're in shrink, they're very fine and near mint. Otherwise, they're very fine plus, and the vinyl of these are all near mint. They're in beautiful condition. What I didn't know and realize is Neil Young had 12-inch singles out, right? I have to believe this is what people sent out to DJs, what they sent to radio stations, but Neil Young, Way to the World, this is a 12-inch single. Generally speaking, I don't tend to like 45s. If I could have a single, I'm glad it's a 12-inch. I have a lot of 45s, and I'm cool with them, but I lean towards the 33 RPMs or the 45 RPMs on 12-inch. This is Neil Young, Old Ways, and matter of fact, in addition to this LP, here is the single with a couple of the songs from that LP, Get Back to the Country and Misfits. So again, now I have the Neil Young single, and I like it, right? As you could tell, if you're not a record collector, you could tell from the covers, you're getting different artwork, you're getting different vibes from the artists on their singles. So if you're a comic book collector, consider these variants. I like both. Will I ultimately keep all of these? I don't know. But what's the rush, right? I don't need to decide right away. Neil Young, Landing on the Water. As you could tell, we're going towards later, more recent years. Landing on the Water. I never had any of these before, so this is all brand new to me. And then Neil Young and Crazy Horse, Life. Again, this is from 1987. So if you're talking, it's over, almost 40 years ago. But this is more recent music that Neil Young had, Life. And here I think a single from that album. Or if it's not from that particular album, this one is a single of Too Lonely. And this was also put out in 1987. So I was able to fill out a nice gap in my Neil Young collection with this trade all right there. I thought it was great. I like Big Generator from Yes, right? I like the that era of Yes a lot as well. And this is a single from Yes, from the Big Generator album, Rhythm of Love. I'm going to keep it again. It's a different cover. At least I have the prerogative in the future if I want to sell it to people who are looking for singles, the 12-inch singles, I could do that. But I like it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to give it a listen to. Now, my three favorites of this collection, of this trade, are as follows. Net new to my collection, the Beatles' Love Songs, right? This is a double album. I got to tell you, I do have senior moments because I thought I had this. I was going to check if it was an upgrade to me because this is in beautiful condition. I would say this is a VG Plus cover, right? Looking at it, has a little a color break there, but the vinyl is near mint. It's beautiful. I look downstairs and I don't have a copy of this, so I think I must have sold it in one of those random acts of madness that I have, and I didn't have it. So now I am going to keep it for now, right? I have basically all of the Beatles albums, plus I have bootlegs, plus I have compilations, but again, for the novelty, I'm going to keep it. The Beatles' Love Songs. Very cool, very new to my collection. The next are upgrades to me. So if you're a vinyl person, bear with me because I just want to share this with the comic book people. So for the comic book people out there are multiple pressings. In comic books, you have multiple printings. In vinyl, in the record world, you have multiple pressings. Typically, people like the earlier pressings, and with vinyl in particular, you have different countries that may press them. And in the United States, we generally had Capitol Records pressing Beatles records, right? In this particular case, I believe this was still printed in the U.S., but instead of Capitol, this was printed or pressed by Apple Records. And then after this pressing from Apple Records, subsequent pressings were from Capitol. I like this. I got this Apple pressing today. My other copy of this, incidentally, not as nice condition, right? So in this, I would say this cover is very fine with vinyl that's near mint. My other copy, which was from Capitol, was a VG Plus with near mint vinyl. Again, it's all about the vinyl, right? But hey, having a beautiful copy of the cover doesn't hurt. And in this particular case, I'm glad I have this earlier release from Apple of the Beatles 1962 to 1966. Again, it's an older copy and it's in better condition. You can't go wrong with that. It's funny now, last but not least is the Beatles 1967 to 1970 compilation album, the best of. However, even though this says Capitol on the back of the cover, the records have the Apple. And the other copy of the album, again, this is a very fine cover, near mint vinyl. The other copy of the record that I had was VG cover, near mint vinyl. However, the vinyl on the other album set that had the Capitol has a Capitol logo on the vinyl. This has the Apple. So there must have been some kind of a transition here, but I'm happy to have the Beatles 1967 to 1970 with the Apple label on the vinyl, even though it says Capitol on the back of the cover. I have Apple on the vinyl itself, whereas my other copy of this actually is in better condition. My other copy, which I'm going to still hold on to, has a Capitol label on the record. So there are fine subtleties to this hobby, which I am cool with. I don't necessarily keep every single pressing anymore, right? There just gets to be too much. Like comics, you get a lot of records, and it takes up a lot of space. But I'm still happy to have this, and I am keeping them. So anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining me today. I love trading. If you don't know that by now, please remember, I trade. I'll trade records for comics, comics for records, right? It's just a great hobby. Both, in my world, kind of cross over a little bit, and I enjoy it so much. So, everybody, if you like this content, I would ask you to please hit the like button. If you want to share it with anybody who likes comic books or vinyl or both, hey, if you like both, you just hit the jackpot, right? But I would say, please share it with anybody you think is going to enjoy this content. If you can, make a comment. You saw the 4 books that were traded. What do you think of the records that I got, right? So Rich got 4 comics. He traded me these records and some cash. What do you think? Would you trade comic books for records? I do it, and I will continue to do it. Finally, I would encourage you all to please hit the subscribe button, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you, and I'm going to talk to you soon.